Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we dive into this heavy and important story, please do me a big favor. Hit that like button right now if you want more content like this, and leave a comment below telling me what you think. Your support really helps the channel grow and reach more people. Okay, let's begin. Today, we are exposing one of the darkest and least talked about realities of our time. How North Korea sends thousands of its own citizens to harsh, almost slave-like labor in Russia, where they work for pennies while the regime makes millions. These are not just statistics. These are real human lives destroyed by a system that offers no escape.
In this video, we will follow the tragic destinies of 5 different people. A young boy, a woman, a middle-aged man, an older man, and another worker. All tricked, all forced by fear, and all coming from desperate situations in North Korea. Their stories are based on real testimonies from defectors, human rights reports, and investigations by organizations like Global Rights Compliance and the BBC. Let's start with the first story.
Minho was a 35-year-old man from a small town near Hamhung in North Korea. He had a thin but strong build, short black hair with early gray strands from stress, and deep lines on his forehead even though he was not yet old. His face looked tired, with sunken cheeks from years of poor food. In North Korea, Minho worked as a factory laborer, but the pay was almost nothing. His wife was sick, and his 2 young children were always hungry. Every day he saw the same thing: empty markets, propaganda on loudspeakers, and the constant fear of the authorities. One day, local party officials came to his neighborhood. They said there was a great opportunity to work in Russia. You will earn real money, they promised, enough to feed your family for years. You will work in construction for Russian companies, with good food and warm housing. They showed pictures of clean dormitories and smiling workers.
Minho knew refusing was dangerous. In North Korea, when the state chooses you, you cannot say no. His family's survival depended on it. They took his passport immediately after he signed the papers. When he arrived in Vladivostok after a long, cramped journey, the reality hit him like a hammer. There were no clean rooms. He was put in a metal shipping container with 20 other men. It was freezing in winter and boiling hot in summer. Cockroaches crawled everywhere. They worked on high-rise apartment buildings from 6 in the morning until midnight or even later, up to 16 to 18 hours a day. No safety helmets, no proper gloves. His hands cracked and bled from carrying heavy materials in the snow. The Russian foreman shouted at them, and North Korean overseers watched every move. They had to meet impossible quotas every month, around $700 that went straight to the North Korean government. Minho received maybe $10 to $30 a month after all deductions.
He was told he could only get the real money when he returned home after 3 years. Many nights he cried silently in the container, thinking about his sick wife and hungry children. One time he got injured when a steel beam fell on his leg. No hospital, they just gave him a few days of lighter work and then forced him back. Minho's dream of a better life turned into a nightmare of endless pain and exhaustion. Ji-hoon was only 19 years old when he was sent away. He was a skinny boy with big, curious eyes, messy black hair, and the face of someone who still believed the world could be better. In North Korea, he grew up in a poor family in the countryside. His parents were farmers who barely produced enough to eat. Hunger was normal. When officials announced that young, strong boys were needed for international friendship work in Russia, Ji-hoon felt excited. He thought it would be an adventure. They told him he would learn new skills, earn money for his family, and maybe even see modern buildings. They said it was voluntary, but everyone knew it wasn't. The deception was easy for someone so young. They showed him videos of happy workers. Upon arrival in Russia, near Khabarovsk, Ji-hoon was assigned to carry heavy concrete and bricks on scaffolding. The work was dangerous.
He was terrified of heights, but they forced him to climb anyway. 18-hour shifts, working even at night with poor lighting. He lived in the same overcrowded, bug-infested containers. The older workers warned him not to complain or try to escape. The North Korean security agents were always watching, and punishment would fall on his family back home. Ji-hoon quickly lost weight. His once bright eyes became dull from exhaustion. He missed his mother's cooking, even if it was just corn porridge. One cold night, he wrote a secret letter to his family that he never managed to send. After months, he realized this was not a job. It was modern slavery. His youth was being stolen day by day on Russian construction sites, all so the regime could earn foreign currency.
Sun Hee was 42 years old, a mother of 3. She had a round face, kind but worried eyes, and long dark hair usually tied back. She was one of the few women sent in support roles. In North Korea, she worked in a textile factory making uniforms for the military. Life was extremely hard. Constant shortages, pressure from supervisors, and fear that one mistake could send her to a re-education camp. When they offered her a chance to work in Russia in a light factory job with better pay, she saw it as the only way to save her children from starvation. They told her the work would be sewing or cooking for the workers. Instead, she ended up in a small workshop attached to a construction site, washing clothes, cooking for hundreds of men, and sometimes helping with light assembly, all for 16 hours a day. The conditions were humiliating. Limited water, terrible hygiene, and constant pressure.
She was separated from the male workers, but still under heavy surveillance. Her passport was taken, and she lived in a small, dirty room with other women. Sun Hee often thought about her daughters back home. Every dollar she earned was taken away as loyalty fees. She received almost nothing. The cold Russian winters made her joints ache, and the lack of proper food made her weak. She saw men collapsing from exhaustion and knew the same fate could come to her. Her story shows that even women were not spared from this exploitative system. The regime used her desperation and turned it into profit.
Taesik was already 58 years old, an older man with gray hair, wrinkled skin, and a bent back from decades of hard labor in North Korean mines. His eyes were tired and full of regret. In his home country, he had lost most of his teeth from poor nutrition. Life had beaten him down, but he still hoped to provide for his grandchildren. When officials came and said older, experienced workers were needed in Russia for important projects, he felt he had no choice. Refusing would mean his family would be labeled disloyal. They promised him lighter duties and good medical care. The reality was crushing. In a construction site near Novosibirsk, Taesik was forced to work long hours doing cleaning, carrying materials, and assisting younger workers. His body could not handle it. His knees swelled, his back hurt constantly, but any complaint was met with threats.
"You must fulfill the quota for the dear leader," the overseer said. Living conditions were the worst for older men. Freezing containers, almost no heating, insects everywhere, and only 1 or 2 showers per year. Taesik often whispered to himself at night that he was living worse than an animal. He had survived famine in the 1990s, but this felt even more hopeless. His dream of seeing his grandchildren grow up was fading with every painful day in the Russian cold. The regime did not care about his age or health, only about the money he could generate.
Young Chol was 28, a strong but average-built man with short hair and a serious expression. He came from Pyongyang and had a slightly better life than others, working as a low-level clerk. But even there, food shortages and political pressure made life unbearable. He was tricked differently. Officials told him this was a special assignment for loyal citizens, with big bonuses and the chance to return as a hero. They appealed to his sense of duty to the country. In Russia, he was put on one of the toughest sites, operating heavy machinery and doing welding in dangerous conditions. Long hours in the dark, freezing winds, and constant danger of accidents. He saw friends get badly injured with no real medical help. The surveillance was intense. North Korean agents lived among them, reporting every word. Young Chol quickly understood the trap. Most of his earnings went to the state. He lived in constant fear that if he tried to run, his entire family would suffer. His story is one of broken trust. He went with hope for a better future, but found only exhaustion, debt, and despair. These 5 stories, Minho, Jihoon, Sun Hee, Taesik, and Young Chol, represent thousands of North Koreans sent every year to Russia. They left desperate lives in North Korea, driven by hunger and fear of the regime. They were deceived with false promises, could not refuse because of the totalitarian control, and ended up in brutal conditions, 16 to 18-hour workdays, terrible living spaces infested with bugs, almost no pay, confiscated passports, and constant surveillance. The North Korean government earns hundreds of millions of dollars from this system, while its people suffer like modern slaves. Russia gets cheap labor to fill gaps caused by the war in Ukraine. The human cost is enormous: broken bodies, destroyed families, and lost futures. This is not just labor, it is a state-sponsored exploitation machine. If these stories touched you, please leave a comment below. Which person's fate was the most tragic for you? Was it the young Ji-hoon whose future was stolen? The mother Sun-hee? The old Tae-sik? Or someone else? Thank you so much for watching until the end. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Share this if you think more people need to know the truth. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye, and take care.